Happening right now, the tax-free holiday here in New Mexico has started. That means you won't have to pay tax on a lot of the stuff you buy from now until Sunday night. It's just in time for back-to-school shopping. News 13's David Amaro is live at Coronado Center with all of the details this morning. Hi, David.
Well, good morning, Matt. Well, some of the people that we spoke with yesterday are going to be for sure taking advantage of not having to pay tax on certain items, especially now for items they're going to need for going back to school. However, many of the shoppers, rather, are going to be getting a lot of those school supplies and essentials this weekend.
I do have to buy a bunch of calculators for school, and it's just going to be a lot easier to not pay taxes.
It's keeping money in the pocketbooks for parents, but even more important for students, shelling out their own cash for much-needed supplies. The tax-free holiday weekend is underway.
It's going to help me a lot because I'm going to get all my supplies at a lower price, and right now it's so hard to do that depending on I have to buy everything myself.
Everybody's feeling the pinch of the bad economy. Any little relief is going to help, especially if you plan on spending quite a bit.
We didn't buy too much last time, but it saved us like a few $100. So it really is good.
And of course, if you want to make sure that if you're going to buy an item this weekend that you have to take a rain check for, keep in mind that when you pay for it later, you will have to pay the full tax on it. Matt, back to you.
All right, good advice there, David, with the rain check. Talk to you in a half hour. Now, here's how this whole tax-free thing works. Most clothes and shoes are tax-free if they cost less than $100 each. Same goes for computers that are less than $1,000 and school supplies that are less than $30. You can find a list of everything that is and is not tax-free. Just head to KRQE.com and check out our back-to-school section. One of the men who beat up another inmate at the Metro Detention Center so badly he was left with brain damage should be sentenced later today. Investigators say Kaula Keola and another inmate nearly beat Avery Hadley to death back in 2009. Both were charged with attempted murder. This week, Bernalillo County had to pay out more than $2 million to Mr. Hadley, partly because a guard did not stop the beating. Well, this morning, we now know a grand jury has indicted 3 people for murder, all in the death of a clerk at a 7-Eleven in Albuquerque. Police say last month, Eloy Aguilar, Dylan Villarreal, and Julian De Herrera went to the 7-Eleven across from UNM early one morning. Investigators say De Herrera robbed some students in a van outside, and Aguilar went inside and ended up shooting and killing the clerk, Chad Mercer. Yesterday, a grand jury indicted Aguilar on 1 count of first-degree murder and indicted the other 2 on second-degree murder charges. We now know what happened to a missing woman from Magdalena. Helen Torres was 31 when she vanished one night back in 1987 after going to a dance and then to a bar with her boyfriend, Gilbert Espinosa. The 2 were seen fighting as they left, then she was never seen again. 7 years later, a hiker found bones and clothing in a field about 2 miles from Magdalena. Police thought they were Helen Torres' remains, but they didn't know for sure.
Well, in 1994, they didn't have those kind of tests that they could run to cross-match DNA.
But 2 years ago, Magdalena Marshal Larry Clearly began a new push to positively ID the bones. Now tests confirm the bones are Helen Torres's, that she was murdered, but Clearly will not say how. The prime suspect, the boyfriend, Gilbert Espinosa, died years ago because he was ill. It has been 1 year since former district court judge in Socorro was nearly beaten to death, and now police are still looking for whoever did it. Thomas Fitch was attacked inside of his law office, and state police have not said much about the investigation, only that Mr. Fitch has recovered as much as he will. Crime Stoppers is now offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. Fitch resigned from being a judge after he was driving drunk and got into a crash back in 2005. Well, this morning, the dean of UNM's law school is getting to take on a new job in the nation's capital. President Obama has nominated Kevin Washburn to be the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, and that means he will head the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Washburn is with the Chickasaw Nation from Oklahoma. He has been the law school dean since 2009 and has an extensive background in Indian law. Well, we have an amazing story of recovery to tell you about this morning involving 2 separate cases of animal abuse that have had a lot of people here in Albuquerque very upset. You may remember Tuffy the kitten, who was found in a dumpster with paint in his eyes almost 2 months ago, and someone who was watching our story about him paid for Tuffy to see a specialist, and now he can see just fine. Then there are the other 2 dogs, Rockstar and Caesar. They have made an amazing recovery. They were starving and close to dying, but 2 weeks later, they're doing much better.
They just decided they were going to survive and they were going to gain weight and they were going to do it in a timely fashion. And so we're just so happy to see them in this condition now.
Yes, we very much so are. They look a lot better than they did 2 weeks ago. Dr. Vigil there says the dogs will be available to adopt in the next few days.